Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Welcome to Tuesday. Yes, I've got some symptoms after going to the theater. So I went with my niece to the Regal Dulles Cinema, and we got the headphones for me for audio descriptions. And it was, let's see, to summarize, like I wore a hat so that I could maybe like look down and just have that screen. Protector for my eyes should the lights even bother me with my eyes closed. And I wore my outdoor sunglasses and with the peripheral blinders. And for the most part, it was like, as far as symptoms go, as long as I kept my eyes closed, well, it's not obvious. I was all right. And I was in like the theater that has the recliners, so I could like kind of lay back and just relax. Of course, if I lay back, then that hat's not really working. But I did try having the hat over my face for a while. I think the challenge is again, it's the same thing that I've really been challenged with a lot of this time is that I'm not blind. I can see. It's just that when I use my eyes, it hurts my head. It makes me nauseous, all of these things. And so when we would get to a point, and I'm closing my eyes today for the most part because my head is hurting and I've been feeling nauseous this morning. But when it got to the point, like we saw Beetlejuice too. So when it got to the point where there was something I wanted to look at, I would open my eyes and like glance at it real quick. And so it's going to take practice. I don't beat myself up for it. I do the same thing in the car. Say I'm riding in the car and my driver is like reacting to other drivers. It's hard for me to keep my eyes closed. Or if we take a quick swerve or hit the brakes a little harder than is normal, I'll open my eyes. Just it's for protection in that case. And in the movie theater, it was just out of interest. So all in all, I would say it was really an enjoyable experience. It was much more enjoyable to listen to the audio description than I anticipated. It was pretty hilarious, to be honest, the way that the video was described, especially, I mean, for Beetlejuice too, it was. For those of you who have seen Beetlejuice, it's really a quirky kind of comedy and unrealistic things are happening. So this person in a less than dramatic voice is explaining some pretty hilarious things happening on the screen. And she does increase her inflection a little bit when exciting things are happening, but it's very monotone for the most part. So it was hilarious to listen to it. It was very much in sync with the movie. Like when I would chuckle, my niece was chuckling, who was not listening to audio description. So I was enjoying the movie in time with her enjoying the movie. And that was really cool. So I will definitely do it again sometime. I don't think it's something I want to do regularly. But it's kind of like you hear the dialogue of the movie the way everybody else is hearing, but then your headphones are playing the audio description of what everybody else is seeing, and that audio description is playing off of the dialogue. So they're fitting all of that in. I thought it was going to feel very rushed. I thought it was going to be overwhelming to hear, to have to decipher and process all of that audio at the same time. But I was right on it. Like I didn't feel like I couldn't keep up at all. I'm going to say 4-star experience out of 5. And that's only because I, um, I need to practice not opening my eyes when I want to see something. Like, I wonder how they did that. I wonder how the special effects work in what I'm hearing described. Um, Also, when I first got there and got my headset, the first headset I got was just playing the dialogue. So there was no audio description. So I had to leave the movie in the very beginning to get a new headset. I don't know if they just gave me a different kind of headset where it's just making the dialogue louder. I don't know what was happening, but it certainly wasn't doing what it was supposed to. So I have to miss the first, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes of the movie because they didn't give me the correct devices. So for any of you who have a similar issue to mine, keep that in mind. And yeah, but I know now that if like I'm on vacation with my family and it's raining and everybody decides they want to go to the movies, that I can go as long as they have this audio description option available. So that's good news. And I'm just going to continue to try out these new things. And I think it really was a huge step in acceptance, a huge step that I was willing to try out what people with low vision use in order to enjoy things, to find joy, in their surface joy. That's what I like to say, in their lives. So good experience. Today, I wanted to talk about success. So ambition and success. This was the topic in my meeting this morning, and it's a good one for me. The struggle that I had before I stopped drinking was ambition versus reality, and how I wanted so much to be great. I wanted so much to be the best at things when I was drinking. And it wasn't it wasn't going to happen, number one, because I wasn't actually prioritizing the work that needed to be done in order to achieve that goal. But it also wasn't realistic. I wasn't grounded at all as far as, yeah, I guess the same thing, like the work that needed to be done. Um, I used to just reach for a drink and dream. I think I heard somebody say this morning, I drank to dream. And that really resonates with me because I think about when I was writing poetry, I was thinking about, like, yesterday I shared about how I would reach this when I was feeling so fearful of or feeling like I didn't fit in and everything. I would find this really nice, comfortable place where I drank enough that I didn't care. All my problems didn't go away, but I didn't care anymore. I didn't feel like I didn't fit in so much when I would drink this perfect amount. Well, I would also, at that perfect amount of drinking, that was where I liked to write my poetry. That was where I liked to dream big, and chase those dreams, but not actually when I would, wake up the next day. Well, I woke up with anxiety every morning, so I wasn't actually feeling that I was at this place mentally that I was just going to hit the ground running, to achieve those dreams, not knowing how to make them happen. Um, the more that I drank, the more that I dreamt of big things. Um, Entrepreneurship runs in my family, and I would have these ideas of entrepreneurship, but yet never followed through on any of it. I had some crazy ideas, some absolutely crazy ideas, and I would do the easiest part to take a step towards those ideas. But when it got to the point where there was really hard work to be done, I wouldn't pursue it. I dreamt about success. I dreamt about being the best. I dreamt about my status in my career, in my friend circle. I I talked yesterday about how I had these feelings of being alone, or lonely, or not good enough when I was growing up, um, all throughout my life until I stopped drinking. And yet when I was drinking, I was like, I can be great. But all of that was built on this shaky foundation. I wasn't doing the work to even take take any sort of initiative to not not only become great, but to become good. Like I was declining rather than rising. So this idea of being the best at everything, um, I can give you some examples of that. One great example for me is when I was working for a family business. I was working with my dad and my brother, um, and I did the marketing stuff for them. And I had this idea that there was just all I had to do was figure out that magic combination of doing Google AdWords, doing social media. Like somehow I was going to figure out that magic combination of marketing, and I was going to be the reason that the company just blew up, became this amazing um, company. And I did a good job, but that's not what I was striving for. I was striving for being the best. I was, those dreams were fueled, those unrealistic dreams were fueled by alcohol. And why did I want to do that? I wanted to do that because I wanted to say, look at me, and I heard somebody say that this morning. Look at me, look what I did. Um, and that's not what we're there for. That's not what we were there for as family members building this business. I wasn't there to say, look at me, look what I did. But how I felt working with my brother and my dad because I wanted to impress them. It for me wasn't about how much, how, what's the, how successful I could be, um, as a person, as like growing myself. It was about what external influences I could make, the impact of what I did on the people around me. It wasn't a genuine ambition. It was really escaping reality and chasing something that I didn't even really understand. Um, Again, I did a great job, but I had a lot of unrealistic living that was going on. Um, and my drinking really increased a lot during this time. That I think that's where that I drank to dream thing began. I had all these big ideas and I worked hard. I did work hard until I didn't work hard anymore, until the drinking became more important than the dreams. But yet the dreams didn't go away. Oh, sorry, Boris is trying to get to me and he moved the camera for those of you who are looking. But and then I started staying up later, as late as I could to drink as much as possible. And how was I going to follow through on any sort of dream when I was just completely in la la land? And looking back, I realize now that a lot of what I wanted wasn't attainable. And it was out of reach because I was drinking. I wasn't capable of taking real steps towards success because I wasn't grounded in reality in the moment. And fast forwarding to sobriety, well, before I get into sobriety, I ended up getting let go basically from that job, not by my family. They had already retired and moved on, but the company that I was left to work for knew that I was an alcoholic. I was untrustworthy at that point, and they found a way to get rid of me. And so the next job that I had, I walked in there with big dreams again. And so I had quit drinking at the job that I had been talking about, and then started drinking in the time that that I was trying to find a new job. So when I got to this new job, my most recent job, um, I was drinking again. And when I walked in there and I sat in my first like all hands meeting and the president was up there and I was sitting in this room with all of these people that to me were super intimidating. They were talking in acronyms. They were talking about things that I didn't understand. I had never been in this industry that I had gotten into. And it was really intimidating, but it was amazing. And I just kept thinking to myself when I was sitting in this all hands meeting as people were talking about things that I couldn't even translate. It was like they might as well have been speaking a different language. I thought that they might as well be speaking a different language. And then I thought, there are people that get dropped in a new country and don't speak the language, and eventually they learn it. And that's what I thought. I thought, I'll figure it out. That's what happened. So I had that kind of confidence. Um, yeah, I was still scared, but I knew everything was going to be okay. Um, the problem was that I was drinking, and people can be dropped in a country and learn a different. So imagine being dropped in a country and not knowing the language and being sober versus being dropped in a country and not knowing the language and being hammered all the time. Like, who's going to learn the language faster? So I'm the one who was drinking. That was my perspective on things. So when I'm sitting in this all hands meeting, I start dreaming big. You know, I started thinking my goal when I started that job was to have the relationship with that president that was standing up in front of the room, and the other executives, have the same relationship with them that I had with my brother and my dad at the job that I just left. Mind you, I was not even acknowledging that I had to leave my last job because of my drinking problem. Um, and so I kept drinking, and things got worse. I wasn't working towards that goal, but yet I still had the goal. It's very odd, you know. I was living in a just bizarro world, you know, like I was just not living in real life. Um, Today, when I look back at that, I can see how I can see the immediate shift in my trajectory when I put down the drink. Even when I was so lost, I was so tired, lost, afraid when I put down the drink. But I can see now, looking back at that version of myself, how my life shifted in direction completely. Today, like, I began to do the work. That's why I was so tired. I was so tired because I began to do the hard work. I heard somebody say that again today too, is to be willing to do the hard work. Um, I spent a lot of my life not being willing to do the hard work. My brother and my sister did the hard work. As soon as they were old enough to work, and my brother was honestly not old enough to work and started working because he was willing to do the hard work to make what he dreamed of reality. And from where I sit, that's exactly what he did. And the same with my sister. I feel like she did the hard work, and she's still doing the hard. Both of them are still doing the hard work. And I was not doing it. I wanted to get what I wanted without doing the work to get there. And today, I think well, absolutely now that I'm in stroke recovery, but before I actually had my stroke, I started to define what was important in my life based on the work that I was willing to do, not some idea of success that I had that wasn't attainable. That's not to say that I didn't still dream big. I always tend to have this like exceedingly high definition of success for myself, like exceedingly high goal for myself. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I still think a lot of stuff that I dream about or want to become is unrealistic. In stroke recovery, now that well, before I get there, my goal, when I was sitting in that all hands meeting, looking at the president, I said was to have that relationship. Really, what I wanted to do was to be able to sit in the president's office and talk about corporate strategy. I wanted to be important enough. I wanted to be heard enough. And I wanted somebody to think that I was smart enough to have that conversation, that I had real valuable ideas. And I think really at the end of the day, just reiterating, I wanted somebody to see that I was smart enough. I really had this attachment to wanting other people to think that I was smart enough. And I think that's what I was feeling when I was working for my dad and my brother. I wanted them to see that I was smart enough. And not just smart, I wanted to be exceedingly smart. And that's what I was feeling at my last job too. I wanted to be looked at as smarter than the other people. I don't know why that is. It could be a lot of things. I feel like a lot of what we go through in life impacts us in ways that we don't truly understand. And it's not until way later that we're like, huh, I wonder if I think that I want to be smart, I want to be seen as smarter than everybody else because so many people told me when I was in high school that I wasn't smart enough to be a math major, that in college, I started to believe that I wasn't smart enough, but I was smart enough. It's just that I prioritized drinking. I didn't do the work in order to truly succeed, and exceed everybody's expectations. So it's fascinating, really. I love doing this podcast because I love talking through some of these ideas about how things have evolved for me. And again, I know I'm not unique. So it's important, I think, to share that, to give others the opportunity to hear something that they are thinking and say, me too. That actually happened to me too. So that happened. I was able to end my career on a high note. I actually achieved that goal of sitting in the president's office and talking about corporate strategy. And not only did I get to sit in there, but he invited me back to talk about it some more. That meant that he valued what I had to say. He valued that conversation and felt like I was smart enough to talk to. And I think that, when I think about being medically retired, I think about I got exactly what I wanted. I reached the exact goal that I set for myself at that company, but I didn't achieve it when I was drinking. I achieved it when I stopped drinking and I started doing the hard work. And some of us learn things the hard way and really have to try things the easy way for as long as possible in as many different variations as we can before we actually decide, okay, now I'm going to do the hard work. Today in stroke recovery, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still trying to figure out what success looks like for me today. And if I'm being completely honest, like I started this podcast the day that I knew I wasn't going to be working anymore. Why? I don't know. I was just compelled to do it. I can't tell you that this was a part of some grand plan I had for my life. It's like as soon as I said, I can't do this anymore, I called my brother and said, will you create a podcast account for me? I don't know why. I don't have any idea why. I'd never had any idea of being a podcaster. That's bizarre to me. I never thought of doing that. But when I said, this is what I've got to do, I've got to talk about what's going on in my life and I've got to share it with other people. I've got to help other people that are suffering the way that I'm suffering. Um, when I decided to do that, I feel like that was realistic. Of course, I can do that. But what do I start thinking as the days start passing and I realize I can talk about this stuff until the cows come home, as they say. And people ask me, like, how do you have so much to say? I never knew you had so much to say. Well, I knew I had a lot to say. I just never said anything. Um, I started to think maybe this can be something bigger than what I set out to do. What I set out to do was if I can help one person that would have not been, that I never would have met otherwise, if I can help one person say, yeah, me too. Like this lady is talking about how I feel. And then that one person gets up the next day and says, I want to see what she has to say today because I bet she's going to say more about how I feel. That was my goal. And then my goal started to become unrealistic. I started to think, oh, maybe I'm going to be one of those podcast sensations. Like, look at these other sober people who have podcasts and they have like 10,000 people following them. And I started to think like, I want to be the best. Isn't that funny? That's what I wanted to be. And I still have to keep grounding myself into my original purpose for doing this. And that is to help a single person. That was it. My goal was one person. And I want to always make sure that I keep that goal in mind. And the reason why is not set my sights to something bigger, but because I don't want my goal to change to being, I want to be better than the next person, the person beside me. Instead, I want to help the person beside me, you know? So sobriety has helped me have clarity to define what truly matters. My stroke recovery has solidified that clarity a little more. Defining what truly matters to be relationships, personal growth, health, life. Um, Success to me is defined very differently. than what it was as Rachel version 1.0, as Rachel version 2.0. I want success for me to be that my pain has purpose. That's what I want success to look like for me. That I have molded my pain into joy in other people's lives. Yeah, I want joy in my life, but I want joy in other people's lives too. And that is a realistic goal, I think. Um, there is this 11th step prayer in AA, and it talks about where there is darkness, um, I want to be light. Now I can't think of it right now. But it's kind of like where there is sadness, I want to bring joy. Where there is darkness, I want to bring light. And so on. That's what I want. That prayer fully, fully defines what I want to bring in this podcast. And I believe that I'm learning how to let go of the weight of my past, the weight of those false ambitions that were just gonna drag me down. They weren't having false ambitions or unrealistic goals. Really, I'm setting myself up for disappointment. Um, when I let go of those unrealistic goals and remind myself of what really matters to myself, I'm free. I'm free to become something, maybe to become something that's bigger than what I can even imagine. And that's where that next right thing comes into play. That's where trust comes into play. That maybe I don't need to know where I'm going. Maybe I need to focus on today, make sure that what I'm doing today is is a donation. I think I said that yesterday. Um, Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I thought it yesterday. What I'm doing today is a donation for my future self. Um, I think that when I focus on that kind of stuff, that I'm going to achieve successes that I never thought were possible. And that's not because I've lowered my standards, but because I'm no longer dragging around the baggage of Rachel version 1.0, even some of Rachel version 2.0. I want to continue to be a new version of myself throughout life. I don't want some freaking big life altering event to happen anymore, but maybe it will, you know? Um, but I don't want to be weighed down by expectations that that are just not grounded in today. I don't want to dream of a trajectory that I'm not working towards. I want to wake up and be willing to do the hard work. And that means letting go of the unattainable and focusing on the practical steps in front of me. Um, Recovery is not easy. Um, that's recovery from alcoholism. That is recovery from a stroke. That is recovery from losing people and things that we hold dear to us. But part of recovery is being willing to do the hard thing. And that hard thing is often getting uncomfortable, um, facing ourselves and adjusting our dreams to align with reality. Um, I continue, it's Tuesday, so it's been about 3 days since that 5K walk I did. Um, I continue to be in awe of the family of this young man who committed suicide, that they got uncomfortable and faced themselves and adjusted to make something great out of what had become a very upsetting reality. Sobriety has shown me that success isn't about being the best at everything or achieving the most in life, even though sometimes I still want to. It's really being willing to work, to show up for myself, and to keep moving forward, even when things don't go exactly as planned. Letting go of the mess that I was making in my life when I was drinking, and work on the real successes that I can achieve. Letting go of how I defined success prior to my stroke, and doing the work on the real successes that I can achieve today, post stroke, with my disability. And those successes that I see as my goals today, depending on the day and the angle I'm looking at them from, they can feel small and they can feel big. And some days they even feel more fulfilling than anything I could have dreamed of happening prior to my stroke. So I, I'm like, so what is my point? I'm not gonna revisit my point. I think that on a day-to-day basis, my perspective on my dreams changes, and I'm human, and that's okay. That's okay for that to happen. That some days I'm grounded in reality, and some days I do carry the weight of my past, but I'm learning how to let go of what doesn't serve me and make room for things that really matter and the successes that are within reach. And always maybe having those little there's little ideas of things that maybe I can do that. Maybe it's not realistic, but if I'm willing to do the work, let's make it a goal. I guess that's the point, is if I'm going to have a goal, like, are you willing to do the work to achieve it or not? If you're not, then you got to let that go too, you know? So thanks for tuning in today. And I appreciate all of you that show up for me. Even though I can't see you, I say it a lot, like you are making a big impact in my life for sure. So, thank you for allowing me to sit and talk through my struggles and find what's good in my past, my present, and my future. and staying grounded in today. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.